another better way?
Now the best way is the possible way.
Which is design or analysis?
Analysis.
Analysis and design?
Design is find the best way.
The better way.
Oh, the better way.
Is a better way and possible way.
Yes.
Better way. Better way is more than what, right? Better.
So.
Okay. Yes, that sounds interesting. Good.
I
Harry.
think
Yes. Okay, Harry. Harry.
Okay. Because analysis is just an idea.
Idea.
And it will not cost too much.
Not cost too much.
And so you can have many ideas.
Okay,
I can
many
have
idea.
100 ideas. But design, it costs so many. So
Okay.
you can have many design to do because 成本要不要钱？实作要不要钱？
Yeah.
So you just can choose the best way or the maybe two good way to do.
Okay.
You can do so many design.
So not just a dream, right?
Yes.
Okay, picture. The same.
I think we can come up with some solutions in the analysis design,
Mm-hmm.
and we could have we can explore a different solution in the analysis phase.
Mm.
But in a design phase, we have to specify.
Mm-hmm.
We have to focus on one,
Mm-hmm.
because we are going to start to do the implementation. So
Mm.
we usually will focus on one to implement. That's
Okay.
what I think.
Yeah. Yes, similar, right. So based on your answer, then we know that so analysis actually allows the design alternative is open, right? Analysis, of course, from the requirements, and we wanted to provide a solution to our client. So we analyze the situation, right? We might have different kinds of way, to describe, right, the hope, right? So this way, like voice activated, right? We can use voice, right? So no limitation. So here, analysis, no limitation, right? So we can think of, well, so the patron, right, give some information, but without any limitation, right? So they would leave to the designer to decide. So here, space, right? If our budget is enough, then we can use, the high-end, components. Or if we have very professional engineer, our design, we can use a very high-end technique. So analysis, because based on budget or something, right, and leave to designer to decide. We just said that need to have this information that, right? So the interface. So what kind of interface? So the interface could be kinds of very sensitive sensor like that, or whatever, but if to design, to decide. So it should allow design alternative. It means when we describe the requirements, we describe it, we don't have a limitation. Go to design phase. then it's going to reduce implementation choices. So we need user ID, okay, user ID, and our design is going to use a reader. We are not going to use voice activated like that, all right? So reduce the choices, all right? So the design will not design every possibility, right? So yeah, usually reduce implementation choices. Of course, design is very expensive, right? Very expensive, not just cost, right? A lot of things. We need the time, right? Do you have enough time to solve this kind of problem? Do you have the high-end technique, you know, or whatever? So yeah, it's quite important for that. So for the analysis, you don't need to specify the particular device. You don't need to, you know, specify, you know, go to very detail, because leave to designer. If you use a very specific word to describe a device, then it is a limitation. All right, that means you gotta do that. All right. Unless some constraint that's, well, gotta be, you know, compatible with the current system, or whatever, right? So that is a limitation. Otherwise, analysis just analyze the situation, right? And then leave to design phase to decide it. So here, the difference of analysis and design. Okay, let's take a break. gotta see it. So from analysis to design, right? Make it more specific. Since you wanted to make it more specific, we limit, right? So we limit the choices. And yeah, if you see this, right, very clear that verify as a method, right? And with parameter, with the data type, and well, that is design phase, right? If only use any straightforward text to write this, that's analysis, right? So here, we even combine with the return, so as this one. So the message here is a return, right? Become return value, right? And this is the method, right? And here we have the parameter and type, right? So we know it's a design. It says mostly seeing mistakes. Well, we might say that it's NG, right? Not good way, right? But doesn't mean that's a mistake, but NG, right? Not good. So since if you use KStore, then it generates code automatically from your symbol, right? The message, whatever you draw, it can generate code. And it is not intolerable rates of this kind of way. So we can say that it is not a very big mistake, but it's not professional, right? So here, like we we don't have a controller, right? So we don't have a controller. In this situation, and Joseph, if we don't have controller, all right, who create DB manager? If we don't have controller, who create DB manager?
比較攰
Yes.
grades.
So if we don't have controller, Checker GUI need to do everything, right? So Checker GUI needs a helper, DB manager, right? So DB manager need to have the method get user, right? From user, the data type. And here you can see that all the things wanted to check out, right? Check out. So get user, and then what it is Nanur, and get documents from documents and save long, and save documents, right? Let's go to DB manager, right? And DB manager need to do it separately. So it says that is better, right? It says correct, better. But you put this live lines, right? Direct control is one, and it says wrong way. It's NG way, right? Not good way. And yeah, this one. So and see there's a difference. different statements. One is to get user ID and the documents because that's and the save long and save document. So this one and here is separated. They talk about the GUI doing the same thing and here separated. But I don't think they will make your codes wrong. But it says commonly seen, it means not good way. Okay, and here, but usually we draw as, top down, top down, left to right, right, and it's kind of cascading. So, of course, top down. So yes, it comes first, and then next, cascading. You don't draw the other way, all right? Just go staring, go stare, right? It's a cascading, right? So here, so NG, not good. So, and this part, actually, you already know that, right? So read this by yourself. And this part, okay, so we don't have controller, right? So GUI need to do the thing, and this one, right, from DB manager, right? So DB manager because created by GUI, right? So you should know how to read the code, right? So DB manager creates, check out GUI creates a DB manager, right? And then create a role. So you gotta know that, how to read that. But document, no, it's already it's already there, right? Documents get the documents but not created. And you talk about the DB manager, right? What DB manager should do, right? So DB manager is going to get documents, right? Turn documents and get user ID, right? And GUI asking to save it. Without GUI, then controller ask, right? DB manager save long, right? So we're just going to summarize the relationship again, right? So when class A create class B, right? So create. So checkout controller create long, create message, right? If class A, right? With a class A, with particular indicates the instance, right? Instance of class A, the object, right? Create, evoke, right? The same. Invoke the constructor of class B. Then A create B. A create B because instance of A, instance of class A, right? Invoke a constructor of class B, right? That's so A creates B, so they have a relationship, right? A create B because A need to have B. About use, right? So use. So class A use class B for many reasons. Class A wanted to use class B. Class A passing object of class B as a parameter in a function call, alright? So pass class B as a parameter in a function call. So it's going to see this, right? So like Chico controller call the function save long and save documents, right? Like save as who as the manager to save, right? Then Chico controller and DB manager both need to use document, right? Document. So Chico controller use document, and DB manager also need to use document. But they create wrong. Wrong is already created, right? The DB manager save it long, and of course Chico controller knows long because they created. Chico controller use and receive object of class B as a return value, right? The Chico controller use documents from DB manager because ask DB manager to check up the ID, right? So DB manager ask document, do you have a book for that? Right, do you have a book? And then return. Document is the return type. Class B is a parameter type, a function of class A, the other way, right? So class B is a parameter type of class A. Parameter type of class A. So that DB manager use long and document because, long document of, it's a parameter type of class A DB manager's function. It could be, past more than one. It could be 2, 3, 4. No, not just 2, right? Past, it means past multiple. So we can that, right? Object of class B and object of class C use as a parameters to invoke a constructor class A, right? To create something by a combination of different parameter, and the parameter comes from different objects. So that's a relationship. Or we want to, get object. Right. So it could be that there's a message said that, right? Get engine, and the data type is engine, right? So we have a car, right? Signified they have aggregation relationship, or there could be association, right? Association, not aggregation. Course and students, right? So course, get course from course. A student in course, not aggregation. Of course, call A. Instance of A, call, right? Call a method, the call. Of course, wanted to use it, so they have this relationship. So today we talk about object interaction, all right? So their relationship, are intertwined. That's containment, right? It's good collection list, right? We can add in, but that's get or remove. So identify containment relationship, right? So if A contains B, then the object of class A receive messages of this. So A contains B, then we can add instance of B, get, remove, right? Or other inheritance with that. So the relationship are multiple, different kinds of that. So let me see. Okay, it's very complex, but go to the end, right? So let's see. So almost that. What's the difference between these two? So here, we have a login function, the method. User login, no, here is the user ID. The previous one, take it out, but isn't work, right? So you wanted to check out, need to have user ID. So here, user ID and password, right? So it's a JSP. It's a login page. It's an interface. And then we have a login controller. So login controller, we wanted to verify. So login controller has a method verify. So verify user ID and password, right? And here we set as int. Okay, in DB manager, right? So presumes that we think that, well, we leave space. We might have different kinds of databases, so we need DB manager to handle all of that. So, well, DB manager is going to, ask user to get this, right? So get user ID and verify it. Here. This is the return, right? So R, so 0, if it's 0 or 1 or 2, we set as integer. If it's 0, then it's wrong. If it's 1, then please change password to welcome, right? So here we use control variable to design. Is this a good design? So what's the pros and cons of this design? By using control variable, what's the pros and cons? It works, that pros and cons. That look at another design, says a better one. Improve. So here, the same user ID, password, right? We change, become Boolean, from integer to the Boolean, and see the difference. So you see that's verified, that's only true false. Not true, there's an error else. It's first time. Also we use Boolean, right? It's the first time, so you can see that's this. The reason to go to the change password, right? Change password. The welcome. So the pros and cons of this design. And since it has improved, then And my question, which one is a better design? Based on this, you think this one is improved, so this will be better. Why? Each one has its pros and cons. Anyone can answer this? Thus,
right side is better because 它比较好读，就是比较容易清楚他在做什么。
which one?
Right side,
Right side, is it easy to read?
yeah.
And it's a hard, hard to read.
Hard to read. Left side is harder read.
So it's the left side. It's a hard to read.
Yeah.
Why was it hard to read? The 0, 1, 2 is very easy to read.
We don't know what the zero mean and what the one mean.
Mm-hmm.
也就是它的1跟2，你不知道它到底是什么情况下会是1，什么情况下会是2这样子。
Mm-hmm.
对，啊右边可以直接知道。
Okay, and what else? Okay, mental?
It decreases conflict because 就是那些东西它好像会去依赖那个变数，然后去改变那个路径，这样不太好，所以要降低那个 conflict。
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, that's. So I want you to analyze, right, the pros and cons, all right. You're not going to say that's, well, improve, that it's better, all right. And it means, well, it's so bad. No, not so bad. But, we got to tell that it has its pros and cons, right? Each design, we cannot say, design one, that's meaningless, that's so bad, it's worse than, but describe the pros and cons, right? Of course, you know that based on that, it's improved, right? So, like I mentioned about that, then you can think of the good sides. The good sides of the left side, and bad side of bad and good, each one is, and compare it. I think it's better. Why is that? It doesn't mean that without any good reason to use that. Right? 所以好，我今天有没有讲中文忘记？这个作业希望你们可以，也就是让你们学习一下，去思考，找一些资料看看啊。这个 design 有什么差异？当然已经给你这样子的 improve， 当然这好像没什么选择，不是这样子的。你必须要看左边的一无是处吗？不是啊。那右边啊，你说它的好处在哪？它也有缺点，所以让你们了解一下，就是程式不是可以动就可以啊，比较看看。Okay, so this is one of the questions. This one. I want you to create a sequence diagram. Probably you can see the diagram, right? Next, but I want you to think that, right? So I give you this kind of dialogue and different kinds of dialogue. So it's a visual, So visual money. So you can see here. You see two, right? And yours probably you see one, right? So when you create a sequence diagram here as visual money precondition, this use case assumes that the customer has logged into the ATM again. And then, so the same, the use case begin with, but we have this, a page. So this page shows selection screen, right? It's just there, right? Until customer, right, select something, and then the interaction. And finally, that's, well, got what the user, the customer needs, right? The amount of money. So here also give you this. I want you to create a sequence diagram and even give you all of this and a diagram. You can see a diagram probably, a diagram. But don't copy that, right? Based on all the weeks we talk about sequence diagram, you can use more precise symbol, right? You consider cascading, you consider the type of message, right? And we consider MVC. So it's going to compare which team does it better. Right. Don't copy the diagram that's from the slides. So you just can, create a better sequence diagram. It's only this piece, right? And give you everything. You don't copy that. If you copy that, you get none, right? So draw a better sequence diagram, especially you can, right? So any question for this? I said that's cascading, right? You know cascading, right? So understand cascading. Yeah, cascading. I said cascading. You understand cascading? Oh, staring. So understand staring? You want to climb a stair? Stair. Climb a stair. You understand climb a stair? Climb a stair, right? Stairway, right? Stairway. So sequence diagram. So Ian, you ask you sequence diagram that we need to draw like staring, right? Staring. 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 No, right? And cascading, right? That means you understand cascading, right? Yeah, good. So you understand that, right? Cascading. Staring, right? So it's cascading, right? Top, down, right? Left, right. All right. So you can do, as better, as you can. That's so create a good looking sequence diagram and that is. Okay, you have 10 minutes to discuss. And after that, discuss this, please. Discuss within your group.